1 second. Hello, everyone. Arvin, we are not that late. Hold on, we had technical difficulties, guys, but it's okay, right? So Arvin, it's a pleasure to see you. I haven't seen you in, I don't know, a year almost.
Been a
How have
while.
you how have you been? First of
Very
all, a
good.
human check-in. How have you been? A human check-in.
Been good. How about you, Sal? How have you been?
Really well, really, really well. And I can't tell you how proud and privileged I am to have you as an NFT, Arvin. You know how much I admire that brain of yours. So I
Sure.
wanted to make sure everyone kind of got a little glimpse of Arvin, the human being. So we're going to ask some questions. It's going to be short and brief, about 15 minutes. So
Sure.
everyone will kind of get to know you. So, I'm going to ask this question of you, Arvin. If you had today, just think wide and tall, a dream project you had to work on, what would that be?
Yeah. So,
And meaning you have to work on with a person, a company, a government. Like, what is that dream, like that moonshot project for you?
yeah. So without getting into the specifics, I think I'll tell you things that excite me. I mean, technology excites me, but impact also excites me. Hard tech problems, creating significant social impact. So projects, activities which try to use cutting edge hard tech problems to create to solve more fundamental problems are generally exciting, uh, and there are quite a few of them that one could think about. So yeah, that
Okay.
intersection look forward to.
So hold on, that's like wide and tall. Why don't you tell me today what does your day to day look like right now, maybe, and what are some of the hard tech problems that you're solving today in your current role?
Yeah. So so my day currently is kind of a mix of some deep work, some oversight related work, a lot of stakeholder interaction, alignment, right? So I have a decently large team to sort of that I am responsible for. So uh, a lot of time is so as a company doing a significant video analytics platform, a lot of my time goes into looking at individual components, working with the engineers, leads, making sure we are moving towards a more deployable, cutting edge platform there. Now, and when you're building a customer facing product, obviously a lot of customer internal leadership alignment time goes into that as well. I do try to make sure that I keep good bit of time for deep work, for quietly sitting down, working on components, working on architecture, working on and things that will help further the envelope. In our case, it could be things around more optimized video streaming platforms, low bandwidth consuming different platforms. How do you work across a mix of clouds and edge? How do you make AI work in lesser data points, right? So complete spectrum of these hard problems exist, primarily centered around making video uh, based analytics a lot more accessible and a lot more meaningful. Uh,
Mm,
that's that.
okay, hold on. That sounds, very complicated, Arvin. But you know what? I wouldn't have expected anything less for you. What would success look like for you in your current work that you're doing in terms of video analytics? So, maybe explain a little bit about how and what you're doing with video analytics, very briefly, and what would be a milestone of success for you in this project that you're working on
So
right now?
yeah, so video analytics as a space has evolved, right? So there was people started with trying to recognize uh, work on images and recognize things out of it. Initially words, writing, then objects, and the sort of progressively it goes into say action recognition, right? So you have a video and not just a static image. Can you identify what a person might be doing? And you could take it one step beyond and say, now that you're identifying action, can you identify, is it what you were expecting it to be like, right? Or is it different from what should have been? Now, at a broad level, in my current role, we are using action recognition combined with other forms of video analytics to help make manufacturing better? Can I, by looking at sort of what the operator or what may be happening on the assembly floor, can I help improve that? Now, what are the technical challenges and what would define success here? From a customer perspective, if a customer could use this solution and become more efficient, more productive, reduce errors, that's that's a jump for them. From a technology perspective, if we could minimize the friction in getting the model trained, deployed, make it more accurate, can I look at maybe one sample reference cycle or one sample action and create an AI model from it, right? And those are leapfrogging changes there to to
Mhm.
to to build such models, right? So does that clarify, Sal?
Absolutely. And does really it does. And does efficiency, because in the UAE, one of our goals, and most of the Arab world, we're trying to get to carbon neutral. And would you say these kinds of efficiencies, particularly in
Mm.
manufacturing, would be one way that we can get there? Certainly at a country level, looking at Arvin as an NFT, going, Arvin can probably help us in manufacturing, get us to carbon neutral. Do you think that's a legitimate way to get there?
Yeah, so anything that improves efficiency reduces the consumption of resources that goes into making it, right? And that is a saving. That
Mhm.
yeah. So uh, and the fact is, it's manufacturing does consume a lot of. It's still the largest industry, still not as much touched by technology as some of the other spaces are. So there is significant room for efficiency and resource consumption to be brought down, which should help towards uh,
Perfect. I
better
love that.
environmental results. Yeah.
So tell me about Arvin the human. What were you like at 8 years old, Arvin?
Uh, Very academic. I loved numbers. I would spend a lot of time by myself, uh, playing around with numbers at times. I was very active as well otherwise, but I like discovering things. I like sort of experimenting with colors. I remember when I was a 5 year old, my first sense of sort of discovery when um, I was given this homework assignment to color a green vegetable, and I realized I didn't have green sketch pen on me. I was out of it, and sort of the discovery that I could mix blue and yellow and then actually get green and try it out, and this is by myself, um, was, I would argue, the first sense of discovery, and I think that spirit of experimentation sort of stayed once you had that high as a 5 or 6 year old.
And would the 8-year-old version of you like to hang out? Why would the 8-year-old version of you hang out with the version of you right now? Like, what is it that you have kept in that 8-year-old spirit of yours?
I think generally so questionable, but generally the spirit of exploring, spirit of trying out new problems, um, going beyond the comfort zones, definitely. Those are all through my life. I've sort of taken on the part of me that sort of been consistent is what's the hardest problem that needs to be worked upon, irrespective of even the skills at times. I've jumped into that, right? And that I think
Wow.
it's a little bit of
Wow.
uh,
That's
foolhardiness,
courage.
if not doubt.
That's
Yeah.
courage. You know what? And what about the 80-year-old version of you? If the 80-year-old version of you had to look at this version of you right now, what do you think that the 80-year-old would be most proud about Arvin right now?
Yeah, I think the fact that I took these leaps of faith, right? This is, I mean, Big Fight song, right? Which is all you touch and all you see is all what your life would be, right? So if in 20s or 30s I hadn't taken those uh, obviously, I mean, seemingly irrational decisions, would I have had those experiences, which I'm pretty sure will shape a lot of things that I do going forward as I go,
Mhm.
irrespective of whatever I do, right? So,
Mhm.
sort of being able to take those decisions and get into those uncharted territories is something that I still think will define a lot of the future for me, or will shape up, or will be significant in the future for me.
Mhm.
Which when I'm 80, hopefully I would have seen the impact of it all, right? How it
Yeah.
changed, yeah, more than I
So
do now.
That's awesome, Arvin. And that's the thing I think I connected with you on, that sense of adventure, and that sense of that almost like that wicked little 8-year-old trying to figure stuff out that people go, no, that cannot be done. And Arvin raises his hand and he goes, yeah, I'll show you.
It's interesting though. When I was till my high school or college, I was otherwise very focused, very sort of one thing, go deep in, and maybe some of the other things I take pride in happen in that extreme focus. So I think post that there's always been that constant journey of taking one thing and focusing versus sort of taking on your
Yeah.
challenges, right? And it's a balance that we often sort of constantly sort of try to walk the
Yeah.
between.
Yeah. And what about if you had right now you could access any expert in the world, right? Because in this instance, you're the expert to others, but if Arvin had to access any kind of expert in the world for yourself, what kind of
Hmm.
expert would you like to access and why?
So I'll probably take this question and expand the time scope to maybe not just people now, but maybe people in the past as well. I take the
Okay.
liberty to sort of do that to your question.
That's
And
fine.
with an expert, um, I would also go back to people who could see technical expertise. At some level, I believe, and this may be counterintuitive to the whole idea of technical expertise NFT, but technical expertise one could sort of gather in a topic. I think it's often the inspiration that one looks for, right?
Hmm.
Or people figuring out how they have straddled or taken certain decisions. So when it comes to that, I would uh, people who sort of whose life and I've been very passionate about science within India normally. Science, people who have sort of used science to even look at aspects of nation building and how it goes. So some of the scientists from Indian background would be people I would love to sort of hang out with or spend time with. People like Vikram Sarabhai, who sort of launched almost single-handedly the space program of India, to people like Ramanujam, who was arguably one of the sort of best mathematicians, came from a very humble background, no formal training in maths.
Hmm.
To people in my current area as well, people uh, who have led to significant jumps in taking in creating the discipline of machine learning and AI, right? So, and yeah.
Wow, wow, wow. And let me ask you a question, Arvin. Okay, this is like a hold on, I'm opening the door. This is one of those human personal questions. What's the thing about you that would surprise people the most?
Uh, what's the thing about me that would surprise people? No, I think depends on who you're talking to. People who knew me as a in high school and college as this very focused person, they get surprised by the choices that I've taken after, right? Where they would expected a certain career track for me, right? So um, yeah, the fact that I have these sites, perhaps, which
Pardon?
somebody the fact that I have these sites which wants to explore or which wants to sort of try out new things or which
Sure.
likes travel or I think would be a little surprising to somebody who saw me purely as a focused academic, right? So I
Mm,
don't know if that
mm.
answers the question.
And I know you have a secret skill as a creative writer. Tell us about that.
Actually, not a creative writer. I like to ruminate more than more than do anything creatively there. But that's more of a way to for me to organize my thoughts, organize my um, views on things, organize my learnings, perhaps more than anything else.
Hmm. Are we going to see a book?
I don't see what book might come out of it. I know you have been pushing me, but it's hard for me to,
Hold
hard
on,
for me to
Arvin. It's on camera now for the whole world to see.
giving me enough
So
content.
hold on, be careful what you say, Arvin. Are we going to see a book?
Nope. Just taking a sip. No, I don't see a single sort of theme there per se. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You know what? Yeah, you write beautifully. I have to say that to you. You're an absolute beautiful writer. And I think a lot of times, and I will share this, with everyone watching. I think a lot of times people who really shine in deep technical areas tend to also have an extremely creative side. And they're able to bring that to that space, that deeply focused space, and you can see it in the quality of work that they do. And I would say Arvin is one of those people I greatly admire for that. I think all the great thinkers of the decades we look at, often have that, and it's missed a lot of times. So, Arvin, ideally, who would you love to spend time with as the buyer of your NFT? Like, if you had to pick out of the sky, like who would the person, what kind of company, government, individual? Is there anyone in particular you would be interested in spending, time with?
Yeah, I don't want to influence, but I think you have, there was this earlier question that you asked about, right? What kind of projects would be interesting, right?
Yeah,
And I would probably weave it back to that, circle this back to that, which is um, companies, individuals, organizations trying to use um, hard tech problems, ML, AI, systems engineering for significant societal, social impact problems are obviously interesting, but yeah, I mean, those are the kind
yeah.
of things that,
Good. That's good. And if you had to give our users, we'll end on this note because I know all of them wanted, like, how do they collecting data? Data, everyone's sitting on all kinds of data right now. If you had to give them like a simple three-part checklist, let's say, of is your data, does it have value? Does it have value for impact? Does it have value for you to monetize? Is there like a little playlist you can give them, like a little checklist that they can ask when they are looking at their data and it's just sitting there and they're not doing anything with it, going, just like how you looked at video, right? I think everybody sits on video camera, on that footage that sits in buildings, that sit wherever, and all of a sudden you kind of sat at it and realize, wait a minute, that video has data that can actually be, lead to impact, lead to monetization, lead to all kinds of things. What would be those three things you would tell people to look for in their data?
so I'll begin with the sense of intuition. If I look at as an individual, as a subject matter expert who understands the domain, not subject matter expert who understands data, but who understands the domain, can he or she, by glancing through the data, develop certain intuition about what's happening or identify trends?
Mhm.
If a human can do it, there's a reasonable chance that you can mine the data to try to extract patterns like those and maybe even beyond, right? So for me, if you think something can be extracted from the data, and intuitively if you think you have to look through maybe a few hundred records and can do something with to make your business process or make your systems better, chances are you could do that with data. Beyond that, you can codify that. Beyond, yeah, that's where I would start from. Instead of now, is it structured, is it complete, um, is it representative and not skewed, not biased? I think those are secondary, tertiary sort of details one could get into, and those are frankly addressable, right? So you could
Sure.
sort of go back into cleaning up the data, into changing how it's stored, how it's sampled. But when it gets to when you go past the first stage of intuition, those are the other sort of things that you would bring into. But
Okay, good.
underlying,
That's definitely a good place to start, right? Absolutely agree with people to start. So, Arvin, I know you have a busy, busy day. I'm going to let you get back. Thank you for sharing a little bit about who you are. You're very shiny. I have to say that. And Arvin, have a great day and thank you wholeheartedly.
thank you for having me. Good luck.
Bye. Bye. Bye.